everybody, and thanks again for joining us on Phishing Friday. My name is Jesse Hill. I'm the president at Tier 3 IT Solutions, and today I'm joined by
Justin Grado. I'm the security specialist at Tier 3 IT Solutions.
And we are continuing our chat on the impacts that small and medium businesses might see as a result of a cyber incident. Today, we want to dig in and talk a little bit more about understanding the cost of a cyber incident to your business. So, Justin, why don't you take us down and explain what we might be looking at if there is a cyber incident in a small medium business?
Yeah, if there's a small medium business as a target of a cyber attack, you have not just the dollars that you're going to see leaving a bank account because of like maybe paying for response to the incident, or maybe there's a ransom and you have to pay it. If there's a accounts payable fraud, it's literally leaving a bank account to send to someone else. You're losing time and productivity. There could be an operational disruption. So if there's a system that is the target of your attack and it goes down for a period of time, you're losing all that operational time that you could be making money and running the business.
I'm going to jump in and interrupt you there because I think that's a big one. There's a lot of pressure on IT companies and IT departments to keep the computers up and running. And when you consider what happens to a modern business that cannot access, a portion of their systems or potentially their entire, computer network system, that cost alone can be significant. It might mean you're paying wages and getting zero production. It might mean you have manufacturing that stops. So really understanding in terms of your business where your risk lies in terms of that access to technology, I think is important. We probably as business owners take for granted that we're going to come in, we're going to wiggle the mouse, and we're going to get in and have access to everything we need. I give an example. Years ago, every single business that we worked with was using computers, but they all had a backup system. They all had a paper-based system. Maybe one of the things that they did every night was they printed off all of the appointments that they had the next day. Maybe they had pads of paper with the carbon copies on them so they could continue to write clients' orders and track those types of things. That doesn't exist anymore. Most businesses are so dependent on their technology that if they wiggle the mouse and that computer doesn't come on, they cannot deliver to their client. And so, being a victim of a cyber incident or, having a cyber incident, occur in your business, there might be some money that leaves your bank account as a result of that, but the bigger cost might be, kind of hidden things that are happening inside the business.
The money not going into the bank account in the first place.
Yeah, which kind of ties in with the next one that we're going to talk about was, what is the impact to your reputation internally with your staff, externally with your clients, your vendors? So what kinds of things can businesses or might businesses experience, to their reputation as a result of a, bigger cyber incident?
Absolutely. In a bigger cyber incident, a business can see a loss of, a customer's trust. They might see their customers leaving. They might see their customers inch back, like pull back from relationships. Or if you have prospects that are in a pipeline, they might, immediately decide to not go with you until after, they think that they can trust you again. I mean, these types of things can happen.
Well, and we talked last time about how these cyber attacks, sometimes they're looking for distribution. Yeah. And so sometimes they pick a big company that has lots of clients that they can impact, to use that to hit the most possible. But it can also go in reverse, where what we've seen, clients in the manufacturing space, as an example, a machine shop that, has 100 people that work at it, and they supply a specific type of component that goes to a large, oil and gas production, type of company. Well, that if they are unable to deliver, their products on time, to that bigger client, they can end up losing that contract, because the big company, what they care about is getting their products on time and on spec. And if you can't do it because you've had an incident that's disrupted your production, they don't really worry too much about why that disruption happened. They just worry about what it did to their business. And so we're starting to see more of those large players requiring the smaller, manufacturers and, vendors to meet certain cybersecurity requirements that they might not have thought they needed to, but they need to protect their supply chain.
Yeah, absolutely. It brings us to the next point, which is a really good point. If you're losing a contract, you can not only lose the contract, you can be in breach of a contract. And this is with legal and liability risk that comes with cyber attacks. If you breach a contract, you might have a contract with a client that says, if they incur any like operational loss or costs because of, you're not meeting the contract, you could be at a liability risk, and they could take you to court. Like they could sue you for lost productivity as well, right? So like that is an instant that you can see.
Which, pro tip, I hope it's a pro tip, you are not qualified to use the word breach or compromise or even cyber incident. And what I mean by that is that these are all words that have very specific legal implications. And it's kind of like if you're in a car accident, you never want to admit blame. In a cyber incident, you don't want to, preemptively use the word, breach or compromise. Because once you let that word out, you've now labeled, whatever has happened as a breach. And a lot of times in a cyber incident, you don't know whether you were breached or whether, there was an event. And so it is really important that you have what's called a breach coach, typically a lawyer, that your cyber insurance company has vetted and approved, that's able, to consult you in the case that there were, something that occurred, from a cyber incident.
A lot of these, laws that are coming out nowadays, they have PIPEDA, they have HIPAA, they have GDPR, they have a lot of these data privacy laws. There might be businesses that, operate in Europe. They maybe have some customers there. They might have clients that they serve there, and they don't know that they have to be compliant with GDPR or whatever. There's also things in Canada that we have for data privacy, and people don't think, organizations may not have awareness that they have to be compliant with those. Then these types of things might also incur some type of legal ramification to them.
And, because we're talking about the costs to the business, and we've talked a little bit about, insurance and those types of things, one thing that I think a lot of business owners may not realize when it comes to cyber insurance is that there are a couple of differences that are really important to take note. The first is whether your insurance, your cyber insurance policy is what's called a pay on behalf or a reimbursement based policy. And essentially what this means is that if there's an incident and you filed a claim, do you as the business owner need to, send the payment or write the check or incur the cost to get out of that predicament? So Justin mentioned earlier, whether you need to bring in an incident response team or a forensic, IT investigation, that lawyer, that breach coach, if there's any kind of public relations or communications or other costs that go into managing that incident, if it's a reimbursement policy, you as a business owner need to pay that first, then submit those invoices to the insurance provider to, be repaid for that. That can be significant. If you have a pay on behalf policy, then they would make that payment, immediately, and you're not out of pocket, for that amount. So pretty important thing for you to, check with your insurance broker, your insurance provider. Hopefully you never have to file a claim. But there is a saying in the cybersecurity world is that, there are companies that have been breached, and there's companies that just don't know it yet, right? I mean, we just said don't use the word breach, but the fact is every business will encounter some form of cyber incident. It could be a simple mistake where somebody emails private information to an unauthorized party. It could be something more significant than that. Any last thoughts on some of the costs that a small business might need to be aware of in terms of a cyber incident?
Yeah, it doesn't apply to every small business, but if you're operating, industrial control systems, you're operating SCADA systems, ICA or IACS systems. They're typically in like manufacturing, oil and gas, and those types of industries. If you're a small business operating in that field, you could have safety issues that come with an event, a cyber event, that could disrupt monitoring systems, pressure valves. They're all controlled by an HMI or controlled by an ICS system, and maybe a pressure valve doesn't work right. There's possibilities that things could blow up in someone's face, literally. There's a lot of public safety issues with that as well. If, say, there's 911 dispatch is disrupted for any reason due to a cyber event or that kind of thing, there's people that are literally in danger from these types of things as well.
And we didn't even have this on our talking notes, but in November of 2023, there was a cyber incident that occurred in medical facilities in the US. And it affected a number of hospitals in different states. And essentially what was, one of the results that we're talking about was that they were unable to accept patients in the ER. And so that meant that they could not receive ambulances with people that were in need of emergency medical attention. They had to reroute them to other, facilities that were able to accept those patients. And so, the technology that we use, sometimes we think of them as, just the computers on our desk, but they can have life and death, impacts in the world and people around us. So, yeah. And then the one I think we've got here, just the last note was, first of all, let's hope we don't experience a cyber event. If we do, let's hope that we weather that storm. But there's the after effects, right? You might incur higher costs moving forward. Your insurance premiums may be different after submitting a claim. You may, depending on your industry and your clients and how you're structured, you might have increased costs from maybe extra reporting requirements or compliance types of things, where people are saying, what, if you want to rebuild that trust, we need you to show us what you're doing to reduce the risk of an incident like this in the future. And then, of course, you're likely to invest in enhancing your cybersecurity posture and those types of things, which unfortunately most small and medium businesses wait until after there's been an incident to explore those. So any closing thoughts on this one, Justin?
No, I think we got it. We're probably over time.
All right. Well, thanks again, everybody, for joining us. We appreciate it, and have a great day, and we'll chat again soon. Thanks.
Thank you.